For me, theater is such a unique format and different from film or television is in its immediacy. It's in the moment. It's literally live. And there's that exchange, that energy, that give and take, because regardless of whatever theater piece you're doing, the audience is always another member of the cast, if you will, because there's that exchange of energy. And I've always been in love with the immediacy of it and that connection that is lacking, honestly, in the genre of film and television, which is why I think theater has been and will always be my first love, because of that electric connection that you have with an audience.
I think theater is the most interesting format because you're on the tight wire. That's it. I've done a lot of film and television, and I've done a lot of plays. Film and television, there's room for mistakes. There's redos, there's retakes, it's all. Theater is live, it's intimate, and you're out there. And you could be saved by falling off the wire, but you're on that wire, and that's the thrill of it. And I think that's the thrill of the audience, for the audience as well. I'm looking forward to the Fringe Festival. As an actor in it, I want to see the other actors. I want to see the other performances. I've just heard so many powerful things about the Fringe Festival over the years that I've been here, and I've never been to be a part of it, so I'm extremely excited about that. And I love seeing theater, and there are just so many shows and so many original shows that my calendar will be filled.
I am most looking forward, relative to the whole experience of Fringe, of seeing all the different art forms that are going to be there. I know that this is a play that's got comedy, it's got tragedy to it, but I also know there's musical pieces, that there are one-person show components. It speaks to perhaps one of my first loves, which is variety television and variety performing, and that there's, with Fringe, in my experience, a little something for everybody. So I'm really intrigued by the variety and the versatility that's going to be out there. And I also think it's important and wise to support your fellow artists. So when I'm not on stage performing, I want to go and see as much other art and support as many other artists as I can. To my understanding, it's also very economical. Full disclosure, you go to a movie these days and it can cost you upwards of $50 for the ticket and the popcorn and the whole experience, but you're spending a fraction of that at Fringe and you're seeing something live and in person. And it's just I think there's no comparison as far as the discount that you get through Fringe from an economic standpoint than, like I said, dropping a good part of your paycheck at AMC or elsewhere.
I think people need to go see P3's production of Wounded at the Hollywood Fringe Festival because they haven't experienced something so electric in a long time. This play is going to shake them to the core. It is going to make them relive things and think about things they haven't thought about in a long time. It's going to make them question things they've done, things they were thinking about doing. And I think it's really going to move them as a human being. And I think it's important. I think the topics that we are including in this play are human and important.
Wounded, via P3 production at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, is a must-see. You're going to see two artists that are on purpose and doing what they were put on this planet to do, with a piece that is rife with comedy and tragedy, it's what I was put on this planet to do, as far as experiencing all the feels. And you're going to see two artists at the top of their game throwing down and telling a story unlike it's been told before. What I would like to say to Jiggs Burgess, the playwright, is thank you for this opportunity, for speaking such specificity to this character of Carol, because something that I have learned in the evolution of my artistry is that the more specific one can be with their storytelling, the more universal it becomes. And the specificity in which Carol is written lands on me in that I have, over the course of the last 40 some odd years that I've been doing this, I know who this man is, and it's something that I literally was put on this earth to do. And I cannot wait to do it. And I thank you for the chance, Jakes.
Why is a theater experience so unique, and why is it important for the actors and the audience? The theater experience is so unique because it's happening in the moment. You don't get a second chance. You don't get a second take. It's a symbiotic relationship between the actors, the writer and director, and the audience themselves. And your goal is to be able to connect with them and help them for that moment to break time and space, to break their ordinary world, to move into this liminal space where they forget where they are and they're so absorbed into this story that they've connected to this character and the characters in the play that enable them to relate on some level. And to be able to do that in the moment, in the present moment, where if an actor is doing his job well, if a company's doing a job well, they're so caught up in the story that it allows the audience to break that time and space continuum, and they're lost in the moment. They lose that sense of like, oh my gosh, I was here for like 3 hours. How did that happen? That's the way what happened when I was doing that Shakespeare show, or excuse me, when I watched that Shakespeare play with Mark Rylance. I had no idea what happened. I was so captivated by the story. I had no idea three hours had passed. These are the things that we try to, and because it's these moments of incredible passion and emotion that is spent, we are transformed by these experiences. We are elevated by these experiences. One of the things that I really love about the theater is is what the ancient Greeks had done. The Greeks were the ones that originated theater. They were the ones. Aeschylus brought somebody coming out of the Dionysian chorus, and somebody spoke, and that was the Big Bang of theater. Well, their idea was that theater was used to be able to achieve transformation and catharsis, that it allowed us to tap into these deeper parts of ourselves that we couldn't grieve, that we couldn't tap into in the ordinary world. And so we go to the theater, and it was considered a sacred precinct. This was a sacred place. It had two gods that were part of the priest that started the commencement of the proceedings of the festival. You had the theater of Dionysus, the priests of Dionysus, and the priests of Apollo. And so they would set the stage, and so you're walking into something where you are going to communalize your grieving. You are going to connect with one another. You are going to be able to watch what was going on stage that allowed you to purge and cleanse what was trapped inside of you. The unconscious emotions that had plagued and made you feel toxic. When you watched the tragedies that unfolded on the stage there, it evoked pity and fear, and you would grieve, and you would see the horror, and you would connect to what was going on, and you would become out of that transformed. And I think that idea is still relevant today. When you go to a great theater show, you are transformed by the experience. You walk out of that experience differently than you walked in. And you can't get that anywhere else. You might be able to get that in a good movie. Occasionally you'll get that where you watch a great movie and you'll come out of it differently. But most of our movies now is just really entertainment. But theater has this incredible power to transform and to heal, to make us better people, because it's in the moment. It's in that moment where you're allowed, you're compelled to be vulnerable, and you hopefully are allowing the audience to be vulnerable with you. So it's to me, the power of theater is incredible.
I think the theater experience is unique for actors is in that with film, you're for every shot in the film, you're probably just playing, uh, like one sentence of the narrative. Where with theater, you're playing the whole story all night, and especially like a lot of my earlier stuff was long monologues, half hour, 45-minute, 1 hour monologues, and you're not just the actor in the role. You're playing the voices of other roles. You're also the story. You're the scene. You're everything. And that always really inspired me to, because your writing has to be really good in order to hit that level to like an audience to have. So it's an actor can deliver that story, can deliver those characters, can deliver that humanity to an audience, and the audience will sit there raptly in attention, and you're not hearing shifting in seats in a lounge from the back of it. Usually when you're the player or the director, you're in the back seat, and once you see the audience just start doing that, you're like, so if you've gotten to that level, then I think for me anyway, I thought I really achieved something.
Oh my gosh, do I think theater is my church? I do. I'm a very spiritual person. I connect to a lot of different traditions. I look for things from the mystical, deeper truths of that. But as far as theater being my church, yes, because there's a performative quality that we're doing, and anytime you're going into a church, there is this performance that the priests or the pastors or the rabbis are doing. They're singing, they're chanting, they're praying, there's this sense of a performance. And so the actors are doing that on stage as well. There's a performance going on. And it's work done playfully. So you're connecting, you're playful on the stage, but you're really getting into a deep sense of communality, a sense of connection to what it means to be human on a deeper level. It connects us to the universality of our emotions and our feelings and how we get into certain circumstances. It helps us to broaden our mind, helps us to think about things differently, helps to evoke compassion. I think that's one of the biggest things in that theater offers is this sense of compassion for others. You put yourself in characters' shoes that you would never have thought about doing before. Playing a murderer or playing someone that is coming out of an incarceration, or someone who just lost their spouse, or who's suffering from some kind of disease, and it puts you have to shed off all of your judgments, all of your criticisms about this person, because if you're not living the truth of their life, you're not being able to communicate that to the audience, and the audience will pick up on that right away. The audience will pick up if you're not living the truth of your character. They will pick up on that, and you'll lose them. You'll absolutely lose them. So you have to find in your character that sense of, what do you love about them? What do you care about them? What makes this character so important to you? So it opens your heart to compassion, which I think is at the core of any religion. Is this sense of compassion for others, kindness to others, do to others as you would do to yourself. And so you feel this, and all of a sudden your judgments start to fall away. And then in addition to that, there is this feeling you feel closer to each other after you do a show. You've journeyed together. You've experienced something unique and special. With these actors, with the audience, there's something that you have shared in this moment that transcends time, that transcends everything. And then you're going back into your world with this transformation and this open-heartedness, this new awareness and compassion. And yes, so it's a religion. It is as good a religion as any out there, I think, when it's done well. First time I'd ever heard about the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and why do I think it's such a unique event? The first time was About, I think they started it back in 2011 or 12. So it was sometime right there where the Hollywood Fringe Festival was beginning to take place and take root. They wanted to be in New York. We Paul and I took a show out to New York back in 2009. That was the first time that we went to a Fringe festival and performed in the New York Fringe Festival. And but they hadn't had one in the Hollywood Fringe in Hollywood yet. And so when we came back, that's about the time when they were starting that to build a festival, an arts festival here in the Hollywood area. And so it's really about, bringing all these different theater shows and unique performers and dance, music, theater, performance artists together to showcase all of the varied talents, the multiple talents that are available, that are out there in the Los Angeles area. It's a wonderful idea, and it's grown exponentially. And that's why I think it's so unique, is because it brings all of these different artists that would never have an opportunity to work together, at least be a part of something, to really kind of showcase what they do for each other, to support each other, to attend each other's shows, and also to highlight their gifts and their talents that they have, because there's so many. There's so many talents that go under the radar, that are not seen on, unless are given a chance to showcase what they can do. And that's what the Hollywood Fringe Festival does, is it gives people an opportunity to showcase the gifts and talents that they have. And that's I think that's a really unique thing for Hollywood.
I was a member of the Elephant Theater Company when the Fringe started, which was, I think, 2010. And before then, I had taken a show to the New York Fringe Fest in 2009. And I really liked, in the New York Fringe Fest back then, it was still held in August. And you were in some really great theaters, like the show we had done, which is Lightning Rod Theater's first production, Time, Scream, and Hurry. We were in the Cherry Lane Theater in Greenwich Village. It's a beautiful space. And I heard about Seattle Fringe and known friends who'd gone up there and done shows in Seattle Fringe and things like that. And it was kind of a little bit past time when Hollywood Fringe finally started. And because I was a member of the Elephant Theater Company, I think we started hosting shows for the Fringe. And I know I put one up in the Fringe at the Elephant in 2011 and another one in 2012. And I know people who've used the Fringe just as the workshop production, just to get everything up there to see how it looks. And others have used it because, you're a young company. There's kind of a limit to how much you can raise off of a bingo fundraiser or something like that. And so with the amount of money that you could raise as a young company, the Fringe kind of fits in perfectly, because, your whole budget can kind of go for that one show. It feels like almost a full production, but you're also having help on the publicity end, and you're not having to pay a big expense for rental because you're renting the same space with a couple other shows. It's kind of like a carnival. And what I like about a really good Fringe festival, which a lot of different acts from a lot of different areas of the culture, it's what I liked about the LA Theater when I first got into it, which was you can hear the culture talking to itself. If you're a participant in the LA Fringe, go out and see a bunch of stuff, not just the stuff that would maybe appeal to you most. I know a lot of people like musicals these days, and there's a lot of really great musical talent in this town that doesn't get expressed except at the LA Fringe. But there's also some really great dramas that you would be really surprised what people can do in it, what some companies can do in an hour. And, with the financial restrictions being put on theater in LA right now, it's the only way for some companies to put up a show.
You must come to this play at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, because it is an original play, and it is talking about all these deep human themes about the veteran experience that will change your life. You will be opened up by their stories. These are real stories of real veterans that we've put together to showcase and highlight their experience. These stories actually happened. And that's what makes it so unique. That's what makes it so important for you to come see, because sometimes you'll come to a play that the story's moving, but it was created in the world of the writer. It's created in the world of Eugene O'Neill or Tennessee Williams or Shakespeare or Harold Pinter, whomever, and it's there and it's brilliant, and it's characters that are living in those circumstances, and they're fictional. The circumstances that are described in our play are real. It's based on truth. That these stories happen. And that's what makes it so unique. And when you hear that, it resonates so deeply on a deeper level that it will be changed by it. You will come out of this having a greater appreciation of what the veteran experience is, and what it means to be human in some very extreme circumstances.
I think they should, because I think people should go to our play because it's telling a story that you're not going to be getting from a action film or from the media, the journalism, and it's using creativity to show you the inner lives of military characters, some who've been in horrific battles, and others, and how they've tried to cope with it and how they've survived up until 2021 anyway.
Well, I think the reason why people must come to the Fringe Festival is because there's so many incredible shows that are going on there that will allow you to get an idea of the depth of talent, creativity, and incredible artists that live in the Los Angeles area. I mean, come and see our show, and then come and see all of the other shows. There are many different performing groups that are going to be there, that are congregating for this Hollywood Fringe Festival that only happens in June. And it only happens for this one period of time where people from all these different walks of life are coming to perform for you. And so it is a must thing, because you're going to get to see a whole variety of different groups and talents coming together to celebrate creativity. You want to be immersed and drenched in creativity? Then come to the Hollywood Fringe Festival, because you're going to be drenched in creativity that expands your mind, expands your heart, and hopefully at the same time, what we want to do for our show is that it changes you and transforms you as well. So that's why you got to come.
Fringe is just, like I said, it's a carnival of theater and creativity, and there are so many really great rides to go on in the Fringe. And every year I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get to go on every ride I wanted to go on, because there's just too many. So there's a lot of stuff that would appeal to you, whatever your taste is, but because it's not that expensive, you're not paying $75 for a ticket or $100 for a ticket. There's other stuff that, maybe between two shows, check out another show that you don't think might not be something you would normally see, but now you've got the time. It's not going to break your bank. Come and see that other show.
Well, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is, it's part and parcel with, in that Hollywood area where you have the BIPOC community and the LGBTQ community that's there. All of these different communities that are there that have supported us in our work since we formed our theater company. And we have, constantly worked together. They have supported us. They have supported our shows. We've hired so many of them to bring their gifts and talents onto our productions. And so it's just, a reciprocal relationship. It's a reciprocity to come here and support the community as well. After COVID, after the pandemic, we all suffered. Small theaters suffered. 99-cent theater really suffered. There are a lot of theater companies had to close. A lot of theater companies couldn't function the way they did before in order to be able to, do quality productions. So coming to see the shows at the Hollywood Fringe, you help support not only us, but the BIPOC community, the LGBTQ community, and our veteran community, which is the communities who support us. By supporting us, you support them, and by supporting them, you support the whole community. And so that's one of the things that's why it's so important for you to come.
There are a lot of really creative people in Los Angeles, and that's always surprises me. Like back when I was an Ovation voter and I was seeing, 2 or 3 shows a week, even the most mundane production of a Hamlet play, that wasn't really the production wasn't that interesting. There were always 2 or 3 actors who were just awesome, and it kind of breaks your heart that there are so many great creative people in this town whose work aren't being seen. And I think you can go, if they're participating in the Fringe, it's a great place to go see them, support them, give them that creative confirmation that we're all looking for.
I think the theater experience is unique for actors and for the audience because no performance can be replicated. So both for the performer and the people observing the piece, you're never going to experience it like that again. And I don't know. I mean, I guess that also occurs in music, but to me, there's something that's so special about that you can't recreate it or replicate it exactly. When did I hear about the Hollywood Fringe Festival and why do I think it's a unique theater experience? Well, I was first introduced to the idea of Fringe, I don't know how many years ago, Edinburgh, I never pronounce it right, in Scotland, the biggest Fringe festival in the world. And so that's always been on the top of my brain, like, oh, that is something like that I want to do. And so I live in Los Angeles and I thought, okay, where is a Fringe festival? Hollywood Fringe Festival. So I guess I heard about it a few years ago and got really excited about it when I connected with my director last year, Natasha Mercado, who did her show Tree at Hollywood Fringe Festival last summer. And she really encouraged me and just spoke so highly of the programmers, everyone involved, and how it's such a unique experience because it's just all of these super creative people hustling to put their art into the world, and people who are so excited to celebrate other artists in the community. And so I was really excited to be a part of that experience and to meet other creatives creating their own unique art. I think it's important for anyone, especially those who are nearby in Southern California, to experience Hollywood Fringe because it's experiencing like a cacophony, an explosion of theater artists like pouring their hearts out in like hundreds of productions. Why wouldn't you want to see that? Why wouldn't you see the varied voices and minds that are happening all around us? Like we've been struggling to connect for the past 3 years. This is the perfect opportunity to connect and like to connect with other people, to connect with yourself, to think differently, to surprise yourself, to be surprised. I mean, that's to me what theater is all about, is exploring all the facets of what it means to be a human. Why should the community show up for Hollywood Fringe Festival? Because art is the heartbeat. It's imperative. It's imperative for everyone to go experience live independent theater. To me, it's imperative that we support artists. I mean, we're struggling with AI problems right now. I mean, that is the heartbeat of the community, and we have to celebrate and we have to honor it and we have to nurture our artists.
The theater experience is unique for the audience and the actors because, I mean, honestly, the reason that there's nothing like it is because it's that emotional bond between live performance and live audience is something that, I mean, that's the basis upon which like church is built, right? There was a very funny tweet somebody did the other day, was like, I used to be so into worship music and then I realized I just really like live music, right? It's like, it's something that we as humans just are drawn to. and it fills up your heart and it makes you feel things in a way that I think that, I mean, watching something on TV or whatever is never going to quite do, because there's, those sound waves are going straight from somebody's mouth to your ears. And that's something that's, I mean, it's a religious experience. Theater is my church because I think it's the thing that matters most to me. It's the thing that where you can talk about what really matters to you and tell stories. And that's what, religion frequently is. At least it was when I was a kid, of like, here is a parable and the moral of it is something you can learn from. And that's what I write as well. It's like, here is a story about people getting along and talking about their feelings. And to me, that's when theater is at its best, is when it's trying to make the world a better place. So I first heard about the Hollywood Fringe Festival when I was taking an improv class with my friend Darcy Rose. And she was doing like 6 shows at the Hollywood Fringe one year, because she's wild and I love her. And then when I came together to want to, I had written this show from like 2019 to 2022. I realized that doing the Hollywood Fringe Festival would be a great way to get the show on its feet, because it's kind of low pressure. It's a great framework. It's a great deadline, which artists always need, of like, well, I should put the show up eventually. Oh, if I sign up for Fringe, I have to do it in June. And the thing I absolutely love about the Fringe is, and especially Hollywood, is that it's just a wonderful, supportive community of people who hang out at the office hours, who go to each other's shows, who want to create interesting, weird art. And, it's not going to be a place where you make a ton of money or get something else out of it. So really it is for the love of the game in a way, which I think makes it even more beautiful. I wanted this show to be part of Hollywood Fringe because I did Fringe last year. I did an ensemble musical. It's the first time I really had ever done theater, and had such an incredible experience with the venue I worked with, the Broadwater, with my director Ashley Ward and my co-writer Aaron Wilson. We just had a really good time, and it felt like the absolute best thing I could do. And putting up a show at Fringe is just a wonderful framework. So I'm bringing it to Hollywood Fringe. Really excited to do it there, and I know it'll make the show better. And then I'm going to bring it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival after that, which is, you do the show every day. It's pretty intense. So I'm excited to have the wonderful supportive network at Hollywood to kick off the show. Folks should absolutely go to the Hollywood Fringe Festival. It is an incredible month of theater. Last year there were over 200 shows. I don't know how many there are this year, but you can see anything from, a dance act from overseas to, somebody doing a one-person show about their journey. There are so many different kinds of shows. And even just getting to know people there, it's folks just trying their best to do something. You're going to see all different levels of theater, and you're going to get inspired. You're going to get inspired either to make your own thing or just to get out and see more theater, because it's a feeling you really can't get anywhere else. And it's a nice, fun, kind of affordable way to spend a month having a good time. Events like the Hollywood Fringe Festival are really important as a way for folks to do theater without gatekeeping, without having to pitch it through like a network or something like that, without having, big capitalism and big marketing in charge of art. It's something that's very pure and something that is very beautiful. And like I talked about, going to theater being my religion, it's something where people can talk about their feelings and talk about stuff we don't talk about in normal conversations. And it needs community support big time, because it's not a thing that is supported by advertising revenue or by investors or capital like so much in our society. It's something that can't happen without people coming to see it. And I think that is absolutely beautiful. And it's the kind of world I want to live in. I think if I had to say something additional about the play or the festival, I would just say, get out and go look at the Hollywood Fringe website and the catalog of shows and just find some stuff that appeals to you, because chances are there's going to be somebody who wrote a show that you never knew you needed.
Yeah, I think the experience of theater and experiencing live performance is so unique for the actor and the audience because it's truly one of the few, if not the medium, in which we can have that real time exchange of energy, exchange of thought, exchange of emotion. Uh, it's not like a film where you could rewatch the same exact thing over and over again, or a song that's recorded where you could listen to the same exact thing over and over again. If you were to go to the same Broadway show or a little underground thing happening here, like in DC, uh, you would see the same show, but you would see a different show every single night. Uh, to me, theater, and one of the most beautiful things about theater is that um, it's mirroring of everyday life, or it's mirroring of life itself, and that includes its fleeting nature. It's here one moment, and then it's gone the next, and the moment that we just had will never exist again. It's the one chance we have to have this moment exactly how it is. Um, and there's something really, really beautiful about that. And I think if we live our lives with that in mind, life becomes a lot more beautiful than perhaps we think it is on the normal day to day. I think theater is a powerful reminder of that. Uh, the fleeting nature, the beauty, and the fragility of life. Um, and it's a place where we can all commune and gather to hear a story, and that's a tradition as old as time. Um, yeah, so I think that's a really beautiful thing. I believe I first heard of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Uh, it must have been late 2020 or sometime in 2021. And I immediately thought it was such a unique theater experience because of, you know, for anyone who loves, say, a good music festival and sort of the energy of bouncing around from one venue to the next or one tent to the next or whatever it might be, to catch all the magic that is made in those moments, and to do the same thing with theater, I think is just, a really wonderful thing. And there are so many pieces that kind of go into this puzzle that make it a very uh, just a kind of a wild and fun experience. So not only are you in Hollywood or in Los Angeles, you get to see all these different wonderful, beautiful venues, so many different types of theater, whether it be solo theater, full-fledged musicals, original works, experimental works, immersive works, everything to like street performance and magic and whatever else there might be there. Um, so you really get to see the diversity in terms of what storytellers bring to the table come to life at an event like this. And I think Hollywood Fringe is a draw for lots of different folks. And so yeah, there's something really exciting to be able to have it all there at once. And so just trying to get as much of it as possible. Um, and yeah, I think I first heard of that kind of the magic of that must have been late 2020 or sometime in 2021 when I was still really working on my script. Folks should experience the whole Hollywood Fringe Festival because one, there's a little bit of everything for anyone, whatever kind of theater you might have a desire to go see. It's probably going to be there. It's probably going to be there, and you're going to get to see folks from all across the country, perhaps even the world. I know of at least one or a few folks coming from the United Kingdom to go perform at the Hollywood Fringe. So it's quite literally a global event with a global draw, with stories that are probably as diverse as you can get. And in a time where things are really, really weird for the entertainment and performance industry, the acting industry, the film, TV, and theater industry, still, um, it's a very accessible way to see live performance. And probably, most likely, a much more affordable option for many folks, say, than if you were going to see a Broadway show or perhaps even a show at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, so it's very diverse, it's global, and it's very accessible, or at least as far as I can tell, like, as accessible as you can get. So yeah, it's a really, really wonderful thing. And if it's there, I mean, yeah, folks should absolutely take advantage of it. See as much theater as they can. Events like this, like the Hollywood Fringe Festival, these events are so important because, uh, again, they are a part of a tradition as old as time. The sharing of story amongst people and communities, the sharing of story to hold a mirror up to society. Sometimes the story itself can be the hammer with which to break down certain things in society and to rebuild them. Um, uh, yeah, and something like that thrives off of community. There is no theater, there is no live performance, there's no production without collaboration, and there is none without an audience. There is no theater writ large without a community. Um, and it's a community that works together to bring the stories to life, and the community that shares in the storytelling and is a part of that magical exchange of energy, the magical process. Um, and in events like this that are growing and yet still not huge, it directly relies on the community around it to keep it going. Um, and so I think the more and more people who see and experience the Fringe and uh, festivals and events like it can experience just how magical it can be because of all that's there. I think that'll drive the passion for it even further. But yeah, it's so vital. It's so important for a community to support events like this, because ultimately it's a positive impact on your own community, not just for entertainment's sake, but for uh, on an economic front, on a cultural front, on a social front. Uh, it it has many, many benefits that I think a lot of people don't think about unless they really experience it for themselves. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So vital, so important. I guess I will just add to kind of round out what's already been said. When it comes to the Hollywood Fringe Festival, it is such a unique experience. Many diverse voices many diverse voices coming to the stage and bringing their stories to life and doing the very brave and vulnerable thing of uh, yeah, putting on a show. Many of these shows are happening for the very first time. And so they're sharing quite literally, from my view, pieces of their soul. And that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. I'm sharing a piece of my soul with whoever decides to come and see it. And I hope many folks do come and see it. I hope many folks see all the different other shows as well. Um, I There's a part of me that really wants this Hollywood Fringe to be the most successful it's ever been because I think story and the impact and the power of story is needed more than ever today. Um, and I think my show can at least be a little shred of that. Um, and I keep being told that it can, it's a that it can move people. And so I think I have to finally have the security in myself to believe that.
Hollywood Fringe Festival, that first came on my radar back in, oh gosh, was it 2013, maybe 2014? A friend of a friend was mounting a production of Antigone. And my friend said, my friend is doing Antigone and she needs someone to play Creon. So being the senior actor, the old guy who has some gray in his beard, I think I was a natural for the role. But I met the woman, her, and she said, "Oh gosh, yes, come and play Creon with us." And so it was wonderful. It was really ragtag. We were rehearsing in apartments. We were rehearsing wherever we could. There was no Zoom at that time, so we couldn't avail ourselves of online. But we were just sort of putting it together, slapdash, however we could. I bought my own design and provided my own costume. And then we show up and we have 15 minutes to prepare and the show goes on and whatever happens, happens. And there was something so bold about that. Something, it was like guerrilla theater. And that's how it is throughout the Fringe. And I think that's what makes the Fringe Festival so exciting, is that, it's just two planks and a passion. What have you got? Have you got a telephone to put on a table? Have you got something that looks like a book? Okay, let's do the play. And that's theater at its best. I've always believed in storytelling over stagecraft, and at the Fringe Festival, you have to rely on storytelling because there's no time or space or budget for stagecraft. So that to me is what theater was always meant to be anyway. As soon as you start getting a bunch of lasers and amazing effects and whatnot involved, then it's less of a theater piece and more of a multimedia event. And yes, we need multimedia events. Yes, we need big pieces. The Phantom of the Opera just closed on Broadway. I mean, that chandelier coming down, that's epic. But at the Fringe Festival, you're not going to get huge chandeliers, but you're going to get people telling stories with their hearts, and with sweat running down their faces. And that's my kind of theater.
I first heard about the Hollywood Fringe Festival actually last year. My roommate, Lola Darzans, and a couple of other people from my Stella Adler acting studio, we had created our own solo shows as a part of the curriculum from the studio. And our teachers and professors had all said, there's a really great outlet for this if you're looking to develop your piece beyond just the studio. And it's called the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And so getting to watch my cohort go through that process of developing their show into this bit of a longer format show and create something really unique and enter it into this community. I just think that Hollywood Fringe is such a special community because I do think that Los Angeles kind of gets a reputation as, it's impossible to deny it. We are TV and film based and heavy, and there is not a lot of emphasis or attention or media presence on theater as there is film or TV. And the opportunities that Hollywood Fringe Festival provides, networking with local artists, networking with local theater spaces, networking with local directors, everything is so central to Los Angeles that it has made me realize that we do have a theater community, and there are theater actors and directors and performers and writers and designers that live right here that we can start networking with today. And I think that is a huge, wonderful opportunity. And it makes Fringe so integral to being a theater based performer, artist, however you want to say, in Los Angeles.
Well, I've heard about the Fringe Festival in LA when I moved in many years ago, and I attended many of my friends' performances. It's my first Fringe. I've done other Fringes in Europe, but this is my first Fringe in LA, and it's interesting. It's so spread out. I went to one of those office hours evenings, and these are very, very cool. Since I've done the European version of it, it takes over such a city when we do it there that you really feel for 2 weeks that we take over the city. Here it's so spread out. You still don't have that that theater, that you inhabit over there. I don't want to sound like, but it's exciting to be a part of a movement, especially after the pandemic, which feels really puts the theater back in action in LA. You know what I mean? It's just the pandemic really changed the the pendulum on live performances. So having being part of that first really Fringe festival after the pandemic, it's very exhilarating. It's very exciting. Whether it is not spread or not, because this is the nature of the city, it's very exciting, and you feel it at these office hours evenings. You feel we're part of something fun. It's exciting. I think it's all about community. I think the community spirit for COVID got hurt everywhere in the world. We are more and more individual in our approach. First, because it was for health reasons, and now it's you know, you order your food online. So the sense of community got a big hit, and we're still all recovering from this PTSD. We all have PTSD in a way. So live events, whether it is music or stage, brings us back together. It does, and there are not many things that do. You know, you watch Netflix at home. It's not a sense of community at all. You go to the movie theaters. It's a little bit community, but it doesn't have that exchange again. So it's very important. I hope people will come to the theater and come back, be part of the community, because we all belong to it. They should come to see. People should come to the Fringe to, well, first of all, to be part of the community. We're going back to the community. Sorry, to this community concept after the pandemic. Support artists, but to be entertained, get out of the house and have a really good time, whether it is to see our very serious show, intellectual, whatever it is, or see a stand up or a comedy. There's some really good shows out there. You know, the office hours, evenings, we exchange our ideas and, you know, each other's shows, and there are really good shows out there. So yeah, please come out, see some good theater.
Hollywood Fringe Festival is amazing. I would recommend making a couple days or a couple weekends out of it, because first of all, the way that it's organized, you can stand to see, I think, maybe 3 or 4 shows in one day, which I cannot think of another theatrical hotspot or location where you can do that. Like, you can't go to Broadway and see 3 or 4 shows in one day. It is an amazing experience. You get to meet and network with local artists, and the variety of Fringe shows is insane. I mean, you could go see our play in the afternoon, Oleana, a very timely drama about gender and the accusations around sexual misconduct. And then you could go see as one of the shows that I've been talking to, Feel Your Feet, which is a musical improv show. And then in the night, you could go see this other show, Bugs. It's a sketch comedy all based around bugs, and they have somebody playing David Attenborough to host. And then you could go see another show, it's an Edgar Allan Poe based show, and it's a little bit of dark humor, a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy. That is such an amazing array of different shows all in the same day that I think is a great way to balance out. You know, maybe you see something heavier a little bit earlier in the day, and so you need something lighter to tone it down. And what a great way to network with a bunch of working Los Angeles artists.
But I'll tell you, the Hollywood Fringe Festival is a must-see for anyone who lives here in, for anyone, period. Because it's this smorgasbord of theater experience. There's plays that will make you laugh. There's little performance pieces that will make you cry. There's such a depth of talent in writing, playing, directing, designing, and I mean it's an opportunity to just dive into the deep end of creative theater endeavor and swim to your heart's content. Um, I love it because every time I've gone to the Fringe, I've seen something that I never expected to see. I was introduced to some ideas and some comic ideas that I never had encountered before, and I never have come away anything but delighted and enthused, and it always gets my theatrical juices flowing, and I start to get creative again just from the experience of witnessing and diving into all of that wonderful creativity. So go see the Fringe Festival. Just go. Just show up.
For me, my experience with Hollywood Fringe Festival has been integral to, as I've said before, meeting and working with other artists that are local to Los Angeles. I think that it keeps our theater scene alive and it keeps the actual physical theater venues alive, which are so important. There are so many amazing theater venues that are playing host for the Fringe Festival. So it's exposing a lot of people to different theater locations around Los Angeles. And again, it's just a great networking opportunity. I can't think of another way that artists could meet different directors or different actors. And I already know going forward that I'm going to see all these people's shows and then I'm going to want to connect with them after and see what projects we can work on together after this festival. And without the support of people coming to see our Hollywood Fringe festivals, I mean, who knows, we could draw in more creatives and make the festival even bigger next year because of the audiences that we're drawing in this year. That is so important to me as an artist. I think that, like I said, the community that I found when I entered the theater, I'm feeling it revitalized here at Hollywood Fringe. And for me, that is what theater is. Theater is community, and seeing that sense of community at Fringe is what needs to be supported and uplifted by viewers and by members of our local community here in Los Angeles.
The importance of a thing like the Fringe Festival is beyond just art. Events like the Fringe Festival, events like the Edinburgh Festival, the Venice Biennial, all of these gatherings of artists of all media. It's not just a gathering of artists. It's a gathering of people. Because the Fringe Festival in and of itself, if nobody went to it, then it's pointless. If nobody went to see the Beverly Hills Art Fair, it would be pointless because art is an unfinished sentence if no one is there to view it, to hear it, to take it in, to be challenged, delighted, amused by it. We have to complete that circle as human beings. It's what we must do in order for any of this to have any meaning. Conversely, if we don't have art to see, if we don't have music to hear or stories to listen to, then we're incomplete as well. Our society is incomplete. It's part of us. Humans are narrative animals. We I think as we saw in the pandemic, when we were cut off from each other, cut off from art, cut off from social gatherings, we began to wither as a species. You know, people were literally losing their minds because of the isolation. No, the Fringe Festival, the Jazz Fest in New Orleans, all of these amazing gatherings are about completing the circle of humanity and about being fully human and not a dangling participle. you know, uh, I think the pandemic proves that idea.
I think the theater experience is unique and important because it's uniquely human in a way that actually transcends most of modern conventional entertainment. So we have only had movies for about 100 years. We've only had TV for about 60. We've only had phones for about 10 in the way that we're using them now to view like content. But we have had theater for thousands of years. And I'm not breaking the mold by saying that. I just think that it really speaks to something that is deeply human. I had the experience of putting my show on in February of 2020. I put my show on live at the very end of February. The world shut down on account of COVID within 2 weeks. And then in May of 2020, I did a completely digital performance. I performed in an empty theater into a camera to be broadcast to people's laptops and TVs around the country. I technically still did the same show. I said all the same words. I delivered everything more or less the exact same. But it could not have been a more different experience than having and feeling an audience there. I honestly think that if COVID did nothing but teach all of us how precious one another's company is, it is so precious to be in the presence of another human being, whether it be in person. I think now we have all learned to conduct ourselves, over Zoom. We're all fairly used to this at this point. And we're all much better at it than we were when the pandemic started. I cringe at how clumsily I handled like job interviews or, happy hour game nights over Zoom. But now I am so grateful for the opportunity to physically be with other people. And whether I'm watching a show, experiencing the tangible tension of like, this is live, this is happening right now. There's no editing, there's no cutting away. There's nothing is going to remove me from this experience. I am fully pulled in. And as a performer, that is such an enticing challenge to me. Of like, the audience cannot click away and they cannot swipe. They cannot swipe to the next thing. It's just me. And I have to keep them engaged and interested. And that has maybe never been harder in history, but it's so satisfying as an audience member and as a performer when you're actually able to do it, I think. So that's a very roundabout way of answering that question. But I think live storytelling, it goes back to us being around campfires and in caves. It goes back to us communicating the deepest part of who we are. And I think there's something innately uncomfortable about it, but that discomfort is not bad. That discomfort is exciting. I first heard about the Hollywood Fringe Festival by way of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Obviously, the grandparent of them all. I had heard about the Edinburgh Fringe Festival when a number of years ago, I actually got to go to Edinburgh for not the Fringe. I went for Hogmanay, which is their New Year's Eve celebration. And I just spent the night in New Year in Edinburgh meeting people, and people that I happened to talk to in pubs that night mentioned like, oh, you got to come back for the Fringe. And I had never heard of the Fringe. I had no idea what it was. This was probably 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. I just never heard of it. And they were like, you got to come back for the Fringe. The Fringe is wild. It's so great. If you're ever going to come back for that. And I started looking into it. And then I realized that there were these fringes all over the world. And I probably heard about Hollywood Fringe truly. I mean, it must have been at least 5 years ago, but I was going to do the Hollywood Fringe in 2020, and the world had other plans. So yeah, I've known about the Hollywood Fringe for a number of years. Having never been to any other fringes, what I have experienced at the Hollywood Fringe is not only an incredibly friendly and open amalgamation of performers, but just a massively diverse selection of what you can do on stage. I really love the notion that nothing is off limits. You can do whatever you want. And because it's open to anybody, if you rent a space and put on the production of it, you can get on stage and do anything you can imagine. And I love that over the course of the Fringe, I'm going to get to see solo shows and ensemble shows. I'm going to get to see shows that are absurdist, shows that are grounded in reality, drama, comedy, things that really defy logic and explanation. I watched a man inflate a Bosu ball on stage the other night. Like, that is something that I don't think you would see at anything but a Fringe festival. And that's why they're so special. And that's why they attract such huge crowds. And I think there's also the promise with a Fringe. There's this hope or this faith that like you'll get to see the spark of something that catches fire. And I think that really pulls a lot of people in. People should go to the Fringe Festival because you'll probably never have a better opportunity to see a more eclectic blend of live performance. And you should see live performance because what you see live will never be replicated in the exact same way again. And what you see live will stick with you. You may tell that story about that night at a live show or watching live theater. You may carry that story with you for the rest of your life, sharing it at cocktail and dinner parties. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea how it might. Sorry, there's sirens outside. I don't know if you can hear that. You should see live theater at the Hollywood Fringe because you have no idea how one show might change your life. And you have no idea who you might see or what might happen after that. This is a front row seat to see some really, really special stuff. Events like the Hollywood Fringe are important because art is important. There is a quote that I'm not going to try to quote perfectly now because I can't remember who said it and I'll butcher it, but art gives us reasons to live. Art is the thing that creates meaning, and more specifically, story. Story is the mechanism by which we understand our lives. There's no clear answer for why we are here, for what we are supposed to do, but story gives us context for painful things, for heartbreak, for romance, for spiritual disillusionment. It gives us a container that we can use to navigate our lives, no matter how painful or bizarre it gets. And we need the community's support because, frankly, creating art in a country like America and in a world like ours is an expensive endeavor. And we need the support of art-loving people, theater-loving people, to help us facilitate the work that we're passionate about creating, to share some of the cost of creating the stories that we tell ourselves. Because ultimately, we all need these stories in order to get through the good times, the bad times. These stories are the things that fuel us. And we're all in it together. So we should all be supporting one way or another. My hopes and dreams for this production are far and wide. Of course, I feel like I have all of the stereotypical hopes and dreams, but my very, very tangible hope and dream for this show is I would love to do a tour of missionary positions through a pretty good portion of the American Bible Belt. I would love to take this show to the Midwest, to the South, to the parts of the country where I have lived and where so many of my friends have lived or still live, where evangelical Christianity is still such a prominent spirituality, and honestly, probably always will be. And the show is not about dissolving that or destroying that. My hope is that I can bring the show to other people like me who were disillusioned and broken and hurting, and offer a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of inspiration and maybe a fun, entertaining night of theater that leaves them saying, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're all going to be okay.
There is nothing like the theater experience for the actor or the audience. Nothing like it. It's an energy. It is a shared space. Again, that word magic keeps coming back. It is a shared magical space. On stage, it feels so incredible to bring words to life, to bring people to life, good, bad, or otherwise. And it is such an equal love that the audience has for watching that, for being invested in that, invested in those people. I mean, I think that people are the most fascinating things on the planet. I think human behavior is incredibly strange and engaging, and I think that we love as audience to watch that and sit back and go, well, I wouldn't do that. You know, you watch things through your lens, filter it through your own filter. And I think it's just such an incredible thing, from sitting in the audience to being on stage. I mean, the joy of playing some of the most horrific people in the world, finding there's humanity in everybody, finding those little nuggets. I mean, I'm excited. I want to perform right now. I first heard about the Hollywood Fringe in, I think, 2016, and I was invited to audition, which is why I was like, what is this? I was invited to audition for a show, and I ultimately got cast in it. So I was part of the Hollywood Fringe 2016 season. And I was completely caught off guard. I didn't know. I was like, why are we striking our props so quickly? What are we doing? Why is everything so fast? I did not quite get Fringe at that time, but I loved the experience. I was like, I didn't realize, oh my gosh, there are all these shows to see. Like, it was really like I just jumped into Fringe without knowing what it was. And after that experience, I thought, my goodness, I have to go back and see some shows. So I started to go back to Hollywood Fringe as an audience member. And that was really where I started to get it. I thought, oh my gosh, there is nothing like this in the world. All of these wonderful, wild, brave shows, all of these different venues. I mean, it is a circus, and I loved it. So in 2016, I was a ensemble, and now being part of the 2023 Hollywood Fringe as a solo performer, writer, producer, this has been just, I only, it was the tip of the iceberg before. Now it's the whole iceberg. Now I'm all in. It's an incredible community to be a part of. I've been going and meeting so many people. It is community, and it is so needed right now. Being a part of the Hollywood Fringe is, for any artist, a safe beautiful space to fail. Because that's the thing, we all want to win, right? And what I have enjoyed the most out of meeting all of these different artists as part of the Fringe, because Fringe is there's solo shows, there's duos, there's full ensembles. Everybody books their space. It's like a round robin of shows. I mean, you can watch shows from 11 in the morning until midnight if you want to. And so it's such a fishbowl of creativity, of whatever inspires you, of watching people really, take off those training wheels, just jump, man, and the net will appear. That's what it feels like. It feels like the bravest artists are showing up for Fringe and they're like, here I am. Events like the Hollywood Fringe Festival 100% need the support of the community, especially right now. I mean, it's 2023. We're right in the middle of the writer's strike in Hollywood. We have a potential SAG strike coming up. Like all the artists right now, creatives are fighting to be heard, to be appreciated, to make their art, to make a living. And my goodness, what better opportunity is there right now to come see the hundreds of performances available, all of these wonderful creatives in one place for 1 month. I mean, literally within miles of each other. I think the timing of Fringe is incredible this year. My goodness, get off that picket line, take a break, go see shows, the timing is perfect. Creatives, we are needing to be heard. I will mention that Keeper really is only a certain part of my life. I take the audience from I'm age 6 and I think I get up to 16. It's a small period of my life. And what I want to say about that, I don't even mention my wonderful husband of almost 12 years. I don't mention my beautiful 9-year-old son. But they're with me. And what I did do is my son, Ford, does my intro voiceover. So he's the one who asks everybody in the audience to make sure their cell phones are silenced, who'll tell them any little bits of information. And then he ends with, break a leg, mommy. And I got to tell you, I set myself up for success with that one, because listening to that sweet little voice telling me, be brave, mommy. It's what I do.
The theater experience is unique because it's live. Right? Like you're sharing space with someone, you're sharing breath with the people on the stage. Even if an actor goes in fully memorized, having done the show hundreds of times, you still, right before you step on that stage, you don't know what's going to happen. And neither does the audience. And that kind of electricity, you just don't get in the same way when you watch a film. What you're getting when you watch a film is someone else's perfectionism, right? They get to edit it, they get to craft it, they get to pick what scenes. Even the timing between the lines can be perfectly crafted from behind the scenes. But with theater, it's different every single night. And I feel like more and more, even with the introduction of AI, with the pandemic, that notion of sharing breath with someone is so rare. And you can only find that in the theater.
For me, what I love about theater is that it does stand on its own at its best, in my opinion, when it's doing what no other medium can do, which is to create a living, breathing moment that is impossible to halt or to capture, really, because it is happening as you are watching it, and very few, I don't think anything else can replicate that, pretty much, because everything else is pre-planned, and you're like Lindsay said, you're watching exactly what they want you to see. In the theater, there's always that room for, it is what the audience will perceive, and you don't know how they're going to react. And there is a magic to that. And I was a little bit jaded on theater for a while, and then Lindsay showed me Indecent,
Yeah.
and it blew me away, and I remembered why I loved theater so much, because of that uncapturable moment that you are participating in. It's so beautiful and moving in a way that nothing else is.
I think musical theater is so unique. Well, this is one of many, many, many reasons, but this is just the one that surfaced, because music can express what words cannot on their own. And I had a great acting teacher once tell me that the songs are the subtext. It's what you can't say out loud, so you sing it. And I feel like music is universal, even if you don't have lyrics, depending on the melody and the structure and the tempo, it's universal. Like you know, across all cultures, all languages, when a song is sad or when a song is happy or when a song is anxious. And that kind of communication just can't be, it's just not the same as just talking back and forth. And even plays that are translated, right? If you have a play translated from Spanish to English, something is lost in translation. But when you have a song, that I don't think as much is lost, because you have the music carrying that emotional reality to everybody who's listening.
And for me, what separates musicals is that, well, so, and this is more of a technical answer, because she'll answer with the artistic answer. For me, the technical thing is it builds in another layer of craft, of logic, of depth to the universe that you're in, and once again produces something that is unlike anything else. You are building in this very shared common experience. Everybody likes, I think most people like music, but I would say that most people have a form of music that they respond to. And so adding that in a very surreal way keeps it, when you're doing a play, I imagine, or a movie is like it, you're watching it and you're really supposed to suspend disbelief. With a play, okay, you're in this, what is on stage is probably not real, probably. And in musical theater, it's like we take that to an extreme, and the ability to do that well is so incredible. And I strive to do what the greats, even come close to what the greats have done, in terms of creating that ridiculously impossible experience and making you totally buy into it. Not only buy into it, empathize with it, connect with it. That's an incredible thing.
So I first heard about Fringe when I lived in New York, and the first Fringe I ever performed in was actually in Toronto. So I got to kind of bounce around and experience it in a different city. And I really think, Fringe is unique because it's for everyone, no matter, you can have a perfectly perfected project that you've been working on for years. You can be workshopping something. You can do a one-woman show, a musical, a play. If you're an actor and you've always wanted to be in, such and such play, you can produce it yourself. So there's a level of accessibility with Fringe that I don't really think exists in any other medium except maybe social media. It's like the theater version of TikTok, where you can get together and throw a show together and scratch the itch or try something new. And it brings together so many different kinds of artists and mediums, all condensed in the same place. You can see, if you time it right, you can see like 3 or 4 shows in one day. And that's really special. And I know that Fringe has been a stepping stone to a lot of really unique artists. Like we know that the writers from Come From Away started in Fringe. Fleabag was a Fringe one-woman show. So, and I don't know if that show would have necessarily have been noticed in the same way if not for Fringe. So I really think that's what makes it special.
I first heard about Fringe just, of course, because I live in LA, and the Hollywood Fringe Festival is a big occurrence. And so I've always had friends of mine in it, and I've seen shows. And then actually my first show in Fringe was in 2019. I wrote a little song cycle called 5, which I want to revive.
It's so beautiful. Not to plug his other show, but it's gorgeous.
And that was even the first time that I really produced sort of my own project with a co-writer, of course, but just something that was all my idea with the playwrights. Yeah, I don't want to give her credit. However, and then we did and so since then I went, well, this is a great medium. This is where we can go to try stuff out. I know that so I'm the type of writer that loves structure. I love to feel like there's in the right way limitations, because it forces me to think more creatively, in my opinion. And I also know that a lot of writers don't like that. They want to push back against what has been established as these are the things you do. And I think that having a space where you can safely push back against the what we think is like the rules of writing or the rules of whatever, and try to push that out of place, see what happens, makes us ultimately stronger writers and even more masters of that if we have a space like Fringe to experiment that way. So I think it's a great opportunity for burgeoning writers or professional writers or whoever to explore and deepen their understanding of their own craft. Well, we had to bring this to Hollywood Fringe because this couldn't be
perfect for Fringe.
It's
so
the best place, and also for LA. Like this is one of the best places to do it.
Yeah.
For
we would love to take it to Edinburgh. We're still thinking about that. And we felt LA would be
a very good testing.
The home of Erwan and Gwyneth Paltrow would be the perfect place to do this musical.
For all of us like talking about it, we do it is a gentle nudging at it. It's not, like I said, it's not, we're not taking down the wellness industry. It is very much
we've benefited from it.
Right, totally.
I have my, we have our people, our coaches, our therapists, and we meditate and we benefit from all of that. And I think because we see the good, when we see people who use that good to take advantage of other people, that's really what we're talking about. It's not necessarily the content itself, it's the coaches. That's really what we're commenting on. I think people
should go to our musical if they want to laugh.
Yeah.
If they want to feel, if they want to really experience something that is poignant and funny.
Yeah, I think that what we've created is actually pretty unique. Obviously, it rests on the shoulders of all the other musical comedies that come before it and content and things that we've watched. And people should definitely come to our show because I don't think they've seen anything like this yet. And if you want something funny and light, and if you want to leave a Fringe show feeling elated and joyful, then definitely come to our show.
Yeah, and definitely we feel it is a mostly unique experience. It definitely has, because it's immersive and you're really part of it. It's not just a sit there and watch us. You really feel like you're in the action. It's a different experience.
House lights are on the whole time.
Yeah.
So you're going to be in it, in the workshop. I think it's important to participate in Fringe because, obviously go for yourself because there's so many great shows. We saw a couple this last week that were just amazing and so much fun. So definitely go for yourself because you're going to find something that you love. The Fringe Festival is so unique and so diverse, and you're going to find something that works for you. But go because you're going to be making some artist who's been working on this so hard so happy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing worse than pouring tons of time and rehearsals and energy into a show and then not getting to share it with anyone. So the tickets are not expensive. If you have the time, come see one show and you'll just be making a little theater nerd so
shows.
Happy.
Yeah.
See a couple shows. Like I said, you can they're usually less than an hour. It's just a good time, and it's really easy to see a lot of shows in one day.
And it's also, going back to what we said about our love of theater, it's that you're potentially experiencing a form of art that can only really be experienced in that way on the stage. And so you're just getting an opportunity to share that experience, especially, after a couple years of not being able to do that. That's,
yeah. And you never know, you might be seeing the first iteration of something that goes on to Broadway or television, and you can say, I was there, and there is something special about those big houses, like the Amundsen and Broadway and just those big theaters, but there's really nothing quite like being in a 50-seat theater where you're right up there with the actors, and you really can't recreate that. So that's another reason to go to Fringe. We are definitely hoping to be nominated. We reached out to a couple judges and have been inviting people, but yes, that's definitely a hope that we would be part of Pick of the Fringe or invited to go to to Edinburgh or New York. That would be incredible.
Yeah. And I think, though, bottom line is the joy of, we had this idea, we thought it was awesome, we loved an opportunity to share it, so we made it happen, and it's happening. And I mean, that's what life's really, that's one of the things life is really about, is sharing those creative bursts of joy, you know?
Yeah. And really everybody at Fringe has done such an accomplishment. Like, writing is so hard, and it's so easy to judge a show after the fact and go, oh, well, they should have done this here, they should have done this here. But until you're behind the computer doing it yourself, like, it's so difficult. And anyone at Fringe who feels like, oh, my show didn't quite get there, or didn't have the ticket, or whatever, all that stuff, just, they've already won because they did it. And that's the hardest part, is just doing it. Everything else is luck and magic and icing.
Glorious icing. Our hopes and dreams are web miniseries, and then getting picked up by HBO, and then it gets adapted to stage, and we EGOT. Right? That's it. I will accept nothing less.
And then the more grounded answer to that question.
But I'm manifesting.
But I also, right, of course, to stick with the theme of the show, we're manifesting that. I mean, at this point, I'm trying to just look at the next step, one step at a time. And right now, that's putting on an amazing show for Fringe. And of course, in my wildest dreams, everything that Griff said, I would love to be one of those stories where, oh yes, Lindsay and Griffith, they started out at Hollywood Fringe with that, It's Your Fault puppet musical.
And then that inspires new writers to come out, and we'll definitely do spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, I invited, should I?
No.
Okay.
We've invited a lot of people.
If Gwyneth Paltrow came, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, if Gwyneth, if you're watching, we would love to have you.
You've been a big inspiration.
Yes, very big inspiration.
And I would love it if you came to our show.
I see the theater experience as a co-created experience. It's like a feedback loop, right? So I am up there, yes, like I am on the stage, I am giving the performance that people have paid to see, and their feedback is what then like gives me more, like kind of moves me through the art, through the day, through the show. And then like I just feel like there's something that becomes so alive in that theater, in those moments, that's like so unique and can't be recreated. And even if I perform the show, the same exact lines, the same exact characters another day, it's going to be a different audience. So it's actually going to be a whole different experience for both the audience and myself. Sometimes when I perform, I learn more about my characters. Sometimes I learn more about my story. Sometimes I get to like learn about my own sense of humor and adaptation and intuition. Like, so there's just so many layers of exploration that I get to drop into when I'm on stage with the feedback of an audience. And it's this beautiful, it's a co-creation. I went to a Fringe show, a Hollywood Fringe Festival show years ago before the pandemic. And that was the first time that I realized that Hollywood had its own culture of theater. I came from New York. I moved from New York in 2018. And I think of New York as, the theater capital of the United States, of the world, maybe. And LA is more film and television. So getting to go to a Hollywood Fringe show was really special, because it just got my it brought my awareness to, oh, there actually is a theater community here in LA. And that's really exciting. It wasn't until years later, when I was working with my coach and director, Jessica Lynn Johnson, on my show, that I even thought of the possibility of me performing my work at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. So that the first time I heard about it was years ago. And then just getting this opportunity to perform this year it's like a dream. Like, it really feels like a dream come true. Hollywood Fringe Festival, as I'm realizing, allows for a whole range of creative expression. There are all kinds of, there's comedy, there's dramedy, there's drama, there's all kinds of experimental work, there's solo theater, there's ensemble theater, there's musicals. It's really a range. And what I love about Fringe, and specifically Hollywood Fringe, is it's once you're like in the community, it's like you're in this really tight-knit, loving bubble, and everybody wants to support everybody, including the people who are in charge of the festival. Like, they're always putting on events and wanting to bring the community together. And there's just this sense that we're all, that ships rise in a high tide, right? All ships rise in a high tide, something like that. And so we're all like uplifting each other. And there's something really unique and special about the Fringe community at large. You have to come out and support these artists. There is such a range of talent. I'm blown away by the amount of talent that is in this festival, the amount of offerings, the different types and flavors and varieties of shows, different lengths of shows, different styles, different kinds of people. It's a transformational experience to be able to have access to like this entire array of performances and live theater. And listen, we've all been so digital, we've all been like caught on our computers for the last few years and in our homes. And the magic of live theater is something that we were not able to access when we're on Zoom, when we're like in the virtual digital world. There is an unmatched magic that is created inside of a live theater experience. And you have an opportunity to go to that and to see it and to experience it and to like let it inspire you and your art and move you. So you got to come to Hollywood Fringe, see as many shows as you can. It's going to be a wild, fun time. When I first moved out here, I was very surprised by how abundant and rich the theater community here in Southern California. And so it's really important that people come out and support that. It's the community that keeps it alive, and keeps it going and keeps it vibrant and moving and thriving. And I try to support as much theater as I possibly can. There's like such a richness to communities that have theater, that have art like this, that have like living, breathing experiences that people can engage with. So there's just so much to get, and it's really important to be part of it, to be part of it in whatever way you can, whether it's contributing donations or buying tickets and going out and supporting, or volunteering, or creating your own art. There's so many ways to engage with the community. And it is such an amazing community. It's such a beautiful way to tap into, to community and culture and local art.
This story, although it's a coming of age story of this 9-year-old little girl, it's also about the other characters, and each character has a lot of personality and has their own storyline. For example, the grandma. For example, the mom. For example, the bird columnist that a little Zhigong loves reading. For example, the adult version of our protagonist. For example, the cat hamster. Like, you even get to know about the origin story and the whole story of a little hamster, and There's also a dialogues of these two passengers on the bus. And so it's not a classic one act or three act play. I would say it's more like a photo album or a constellation, with many moments and many characters, um, that's has that's connected by a central theme, and they're all in this photo album where you can just flip through and you're like, oh wow, this this scene is, the style is exposed, and this scene is more saturated color, and this scene is it's intimate and it's a little bit sad, and this photo uh, has a lot of puppets in it. So you're just like flipping this album, and I'm sure one of the picture will hit you.
I think this is a very private story that is universal in its theme. And I believe that people will find moments in this play that will truly impress them and live with them even after they leave this theater. I always I think I always knew that there are French festivals all over the world, but I think I first heard of Hollywood Fringe when I came here. I mean, year 2021, or yeah, in 2021, I think.
I found out about Fringe Festival last year because a lot of friends from CalArts put on a show there. And I love theater festival. I've been to that's one of the biggest international festival in the world, Avignon, at the southern France. And I always wanted to be part of a theater festival. Like, how fun is that? And to have fun. That's why I joined Holland Fringe.
We've been to the French cabaret and French runway, bringing our show to those events, French events, and we've met some other French people there. And I mean, after being to those events, I feel like I want to see all the French shows because they all look so different, and all the artists, they're just all so passionate about their own productions. And they're all selling it at such a cheap price. I mean, I'm constantly talking about money, but I mean the point is, you will get to see all the different forms of art in French festival, and just the diversity of art forms.
Why do you have to go to Hollywood Fringe? Because Hollywood Fringe Festival make theater accessible. The space rent is cheaper for the artist, and everyone's excited for this event. So like everyone gathered to make many pieces, and it's the ticket sales are cheaper to make theater accessible for the audience. So the accessibility of theater is something that it's really important to me. Like for our piece, we even organized bus to pick up kids from San Gabriel who are from recently disrooted immigrant family and low-income families to come see a theater because we want to make theater accessible. So if you want to be part of this movement to make theater accessible, you should come see shows. I believe artists should be paid, art should be free or cheap. and this is what I was talking about the power of storytelling, right? If we all believe in the same thing, it will work. So if you participate in Hollywood Fringe, you participate in the storytelling that art is accessible and amazing, and art is freedom and a celebration of human connection. Doesn't that sound grand? Come to the Hollywood Fringe Festival.